Being said, let's get into the message. Recently, I came across a survey by the Barna Group. I don't know if you've heard of the Barna Group before. They poll people on religion and how people feel about religion in America. And so they polled a sample size of people in America. And I want to show you two results from one of these more recent surveys. When people were asked if Christianity consistently shows love for other people, here's how people responded. 42% of Christians responded in the positive, that Christianity consistently shows love for other people. 15% of people without faith said that Christianity consistently shows love for other people. So let's just look at this data for a second. Christians said about Christians, are you tracking that? Less than half of Christians said that Christianity in America consistently shows love for other people. Isn't that mind-blowing? Like less than half of Christians even believe this about our own religion. And for those people who have no faith at all, 85% of them do not believe that Christianity actually shows consistent love for other people. Man, what a statistic. Here's another one I want to show you. When asked to people who are not believers, do any of the following cause you to doubt Christian beliefs? This is how they responded. These are non-religious people. 42% of them said the hypocrisy of religious people is the reason that they doubt Christian beliefs. Now, we need to think about that. It's not just simply that they don't like hypocrisy. It's that the hypocrisy of Christians make them doubt Christian beliefs. Do you know what else makes them doubt Christian beliefs? Science, suffering, other religions, conflict in the world. All of those were behind the hypocrisy of religious people. The number one reason that non-religious people, said that they doubted Christian beliefs was people, Christians. People are the number one reason people doubt the Christian faith. And of course, I do want to say, I'm not trying to beat us over the head with this. What I'm trying to help us understand is that a church that loves is not a understood truth and experience of people in our country. Now, I think some of that criticism isn't fair. Christians do an enormous amount of good in the world. They feed people and build houses, care for children, visit hospitals, give generously. Some of the most loving people I've ever met in my life have been Christians. But I do think that we should still be humble enough to ask, why aren't we known for love? Why aren't we known for love? Of all of the things a Jesus follower should be known for, surely love should be somewhere in here at the top. Am I preaching, does this sound crazy to anyone? Feels like love should be the thing that Jesus followers are known for. And I've been thinking about this, and I think I know part of the problem. I think it's this. We have forgotten the fundamentals. We have forgotten the fundamentals. Whenever you forget the fundamentals, strange things start to happen. Imagine for an instance, you take your car to Jiffy Lube. And let's say this particular Jiffy Lube has fantastic customer service. The waiting room is beautiful. The coffee is excellent. I know I'm asking for you guys to really pretend here, but just come along with me here. Everyone is so friendly. They change your oil quickly. It's a fantastic experience. And then you start driving down I-70, and they forget to put the oil cap back on tightly. And so when your car dies on the side of the road with this oil spill behind you, you will not be thinking, at least they had excellent service, right? You're not going to be thinking, you know what? That coffee was so good. No, you're going to be thinking, they got everything else right. They couldn't put the stupid oil cap back on right. Like, come on, you got to get the fundamentals. If you don't have the fundamentals down, everything else gets thrown out of whack. Some things you have to get right, period. And Jesus was once asked this question about fundamentals. He was asked, what is at the center of everything we do? What is the most important command? What is it that everything else depends on? And Jesus responded with, as we heard, Matthew chapter 22. And he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart and all of your soul and with all of your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Now, churches will tell you that there's a lot of things that you're supposed to get right. They will tell you which Bible to read, what doctrines to believe, what traditions that we practice, what sins to avoid. We'll give you all sorts of opinions on who should get baptized and what communion should be like. And then we'll get in, some churches will get into your politics and who you should vote for and what you should believe about every possible current event. There's lots of opinions on what people should do. Lots of churches have lots of things for all of us to do. And look, some of that stuff actually matters and some of it's just garbage. But Jesus is saying before all of that other stuff, guys, before everything else, you've got to get this right. You shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul and with all of your mind. And I want to talk about this today because I wonder sometimes for us if we have confused doing things for God with loving God. And you may not realize this, that is not necessarily the same thing. You can go to church and not love God. You can serve on a committee at church and not love God. You can sing hymns and not love God. You can teach Sunday school and not love God. Heck, you can preach and not love God. Believe me, pastors have managed it, okay? You can spend an enormous amount of your life doing things around God without loving God. And Christianity, at that point, can very subtly become this entire life that is organized around all this stuff you're supposed to do for someone you don't love. Isn't that kind of interesting to think about religion that way? Now, I need to say, preparing a sermon on this has been really challenging for me. I would say it's been more challenging than the hell sermon last week. And the reason is, love is kind of difficult to explain to someone. I keep putting myself in the shoes of somebody who doesn't love God. And I'm like, how do you explain how to love God? Like, it's just something you do. It's just something you feel. And I keep thinking about this. And the best way I can explain it is that explaining love in any capacity to someone who hasn't felt it is a hard thing. It's not just love of God. It's love, period, is a hard thing to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. I was thinking about, some of you are dog people. And boy, you love your dog. But imagine for a second if you had to explain the love you have for your dog to a cat person. A cat person, you say, well, I would do anything for my dog. And a cat person would scratch their head thinking, my cat would eat me if I died in my house. It's like not quite the same relationship, right? I'm teasing you guys. I'm sorry. Someone got upset at me after the first service. I didn't learn my lesson. This is the challenge of trying to explain how do you love God? How do you love God? Some of you have felt it and some of you haven't. And so I want to try to explain it in two ways. There's really two ways that people develop love for God. It's this. You just have it or you grow into it. You either have it or you grow into it. The first kind of love reminds me of when I was a kid. I loved my dad. He made some big mistakes. He was there in my early childhood, and then he was absent from my later childhood. But I had these memories in early childhood where I just loved him so much. I just felt like my chest would explode. I just loved my dad. And I can remember these enormous feelings of admiration for him. And he was my dad. He was amazing. And looking back now, I can't tell you why I felt that way. I just felt that way. It just was something that I felt. I didn't sit down at 7 years old and have a yellow legal pad and write, reasons I have concluded my father is worthy of affection. I didn't reason myself into it. It was just there. It was just how I felt. I loved him. And now I have children, and my son August was up here, And I was very happy that he did not cause more chaos, although he at one point was like, "That's my dad over there." And I was like, "Okay, all right, let's keep calm down. All right." And there are moments where he'll look at me and I can just see it in his eyes that he loves his dad. And being on the other side of it now, I want to say, like, "Kid, listen, I'm not that impressive. You should meet some more people." But that love is there. He doesn't need to be taught it. It's just there. And I think sometimes some of you have a relationship like that with God. You don't even remember when you first fell in love with God. You just love God. It's just there. It's just part of your life. And that's cool. But some of us have more of the second kind of love, the love that you grow into. It's not something you have. You kind of get there over a process. This is similar to the love that develops when you go on a date with someone. My wife Beth and I, we met online on a dating app. And I remember when I saw her in person for the first time. And she walked in, and I remember thinking, "Wow." And the reason I said that is because she opposite catfished me. She actually had more average-looking pictures that she chose for her dating profile than she actually looked. And so when she stepped in, I was like, am I on the right date? Is this the right person? Like, this is amazing. And she heard me tell this story at 9 a.m., so, she knows I'm saying this. And, my first reaction was not, "There's the love of my life." My first reaction was, "Oh, wow." Outside and inside over this date, I realized there's things I like about this person. I like how she looks. I like how she talks. I like the stories. I like her personality. It's like something could be here. And then over months, the things I liked became reasons that I eventually loved her. The love didn't start. It took some time, and it grew. And this is how people can love God, too. You may be in a place where you're like, "I don't know if I'd actually say that I love God." And I don't think you need to feel bad about that. But you may be in a place where you're like, "There's actually things I am attracted to about God. There's things about Jesus that I like. There's things about God that I like." It may be that I'm a person who just looks around at a sunset and I just appreciate the beauty. That might be the place that you start when it comes to actually loving God. It may be that you are drawn to some things of God, and perhaps it'll become love, or you remember when it became love. Even in the Bible, sometimes we can assume that this idea of loving God is just a Jesus thing, and before Jesus, it was fear of God. But that's not how the Bible is. The Old Testament, too, has all sorts of things about how to love God. One particular book was written by David. David was king of Israel, and the Bible said he had a heart after God's own heart. And David actually spends a lot of his life trying to put words around the things that he feels about God. He writes poetry, and he sings, and he cries. We call that book the Psalms. And in the Psalms, there's moments where David, looks at the night sky, and suddenly he has to write a song about God. He's like, "Wow." There's other times in the Psalms where he uses language like this. He says, "My soul thirsts for you." He says, "There's something in me that just yearns for God." David also writes, "As a deer longs for streams of water." Think of that for a second. "As a deer longs for streams of water, so I thirst for you." David writes, "One thing I ask, that I may gaze on the beauty of the Lord." Wow, this is Old Testament. David writes like somebody in love. And when you love somebody, you don't just know things about them, you actually enjoy them. And you want to be near them. And you notice them. And you think about them when they're not there. Like, this is what love is. Now, all of that might be nice, but what Jesus says is not the greatest commandment is love God. Jesus adds some more context and detail to it. He says, and once again, "You shall love the Lord your God," and he adds this, "with all of your heart and all of your soul and with all of your mind." And this is a little different than just loving God. So Jesus actually takes it a step beyond just love. And here's why I think he says this. Love, let's say your love is like a pie. Christy was talking about the Fall Fun Fest. We're getting into that pie season. And let's say that your love is like a pie. I brought a pie here today. And what happens is we say, I have so much love. Now, I'm supposed to love God with everything I've got. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut God the biggest slice of pie here. And I'm going to give God that much of my love. And then, if I have a significant other, I'm going to give my significant other some love. I'm supposed to give a little less than God, so there's that. And then I'm going to also cut a piece here. I'm going to my family. I'm going to give them a slice, okay? And then, of course, I've got some friendships. So I'm going to give my friends a slice of pie. Oh, man, yeah, there's that. And then, of course, I've got my church. I'm going to give my church a slice of pie. And then I'm out of pie. That's all I got. So then there's additional stuff, right? Like Jesus says we should love our neighbor. Well, I've kind of run out of pie, so I'll take a little bit out of the God's piece, and I'll give that to my neighbor. And then, I'm supposed to love my enemies. Well, they're not going to get much. I'll give them the burnt crust, they'll get that part. And then we're supposed to have this, I'm supposed to love whoever. And I was driving through the drive-through the other day, and someone got my order wrong, and I was supposed to love them. And, and I'm just out of love at that point. So I'm just, sorry. That's probably why people think badly of Christians, is because we run out of pie, right? Like I actually think this is the point here, is people who have, is because not we're bad people or that Christians aren't loving. It's just that when you only have so much love, you've got to be able to dole out and ration out your love to the things that matter. And so what happens is then we encounter some people who maybe don't have faith, or people that we just don't have any extras. We just don't have it. So they experience us as being not loving, and it's because we gave all our love out. We used it all. And that's not what Jesus is talking about. Jesus says that you are to love the Lord your God with all of your heart and all of your soul and all of your mind. You're supposed to give it all to God. Like, this is what Jesus says. He makes this different qualifier. It's not the biggest slice. It's all of it. So the invitation is actually for you and I to come to Christ and to say, God, we give it all, like all of the pie. And that's challenging. Because aren't I supposed to still love my family and my kids and still love my significant other and love people in my life? Like, if I give it all to Jesus, then what do I got left over? This is the question all of us have. And the funny thing is that when you actually go through with this, if you love God with everything, what happens is God doesn't sit up here thinking, my pie has arrived, and then awkwardly eat it in front of you. No, that's not what happens. God says, all right, the pie is here. Here, let me help you. Like, here's a big serving for your significant other. Oh my gosh, here's some for your kids. Oh, here's some for your friends. Oh no, we've run out of pie. What do we do? Wait a minute. Look at this. God's got some more pie. Man, surprise, surprise. And then what ends up happening is God helps divvy out more than you ever had in the first place. Like, oh man, here you go. Chris, I know those weird church people are hard to love. There you go. You got some more love. Man, your neighbor left the dog do on your lawn. More love, right? You got enough. You're supposed to love your enemy. Oh, man, that's tough. Here you go. You got some love, right? Like, here we go. There's more than enough. There we go. Oh, we got more pie. This is the idea. It's not you've only got so much, and so you have to strictly, crumb by crumb, dole out just a little bit for everyone you ever encounter. Like, this is not the point. It's not that you only have so much, and then you've got to be so careful. It's if you love God with all of the pie, it's going to give you more pie than you can possibly even dole out. This is the concept. And I don't even, I really believe this. And I believe this because I am a hypocrite as much as anyone. This week as I've been thinking about this and reflecting on this and praying on this and preparing this message, I've realized that I've been doing everything I'm saying right here. I have said, I've got this much for God, and I've got this much for my family, and I've got this much for my kids, and I got this much for my church members, and I got this much. And so by the time I went through the drive-thru this week at the donut place, and they got my order wrong, and then they made me wait out front for my decaf coffee to brew, and then they forgot me, and then I had to drive back through 15 minutes later with my kids in the back of the car, and then I chewed out the person. I thought, I'm really glad I don't have a church bumper sticker on right now. Like, that was because I ran out of pie, because I'm doing it wrong. Like, I'm doing it wrong. I've been so challenged by this idea this week. I've been like, oh my gosh, this is actually the fundamentals. How have I, the pastor of this church, what a hypocrite, not gotten the fundamentals right? And so what I've been doing is I've been praying, and I've been thinking this week, and I've been just letting myself focus on love of God. And what's happening is I have more for my wife, and I have more for my kids. And let me just tell you, like, when it comes to my kids, sometimes, I look at my kids, and I love my son so much. I love my daughter so much, and sometimes I look at them and I just have so much love for them. And then other times I look at them and I think, you're about to get adopted. Like it's a different, but here's the thing, there's more. I've got enough here to share instead of trying to dole out just every crumb that I've got access to. So this is what Jesus wants for us, to actually have more love and more pie than we even had when we started. This is what Jesus wants for us. It's what he wants for our church. And here's the challenge, how do we actually love God more? Because this might be a great idea, but how do we do it? Like, how do we actually love God more? You can't make yourself fall in love with someone. You can't wake up tomorrow morning and say, okay, listen, from 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m., I'm going to feel significant love for God. Like, that's not something that you can actually do. It doesn't work like that. And here's the thing. This question is not one you should be ashamed to ask, because Christians have been asking this for thousands of years. Some of the wisest Christians throughout history have come back to something surprisingly simple, and it's this. You learn to love God by learning to live your life with God. This sounds simple, but listen, if you are someone right now that doesn't actively live with God's love in your life, or loving God in your life, this will change everything for you. This is how you get there. You learn to love God by learning to live your life with God. There was a monk in the 1600s named Brother Lawrence. Brother Lawrence worked in the kitchen. He washed dishes, he cooked meals, he did all the ordinary things that somebody in his position had to do. And he developed this practice called practicing the presence of God. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Throughout the day, he would just remember, God is here. God is here. That's it. So he was cooking. God is here. He was cleaning. God is here. He's frustrated. God is here. And he discovered you don't have to escape ordinary life to actually be with God. You can find God right in the middle of your everyday ordinary. And I think what has happened is a lot of us make this more complicated than it needs to be. And I know that because I know, like you, there's been moments where I start a devotional, or I have this commitment, or I start to pray more, and then I lose the habit or the streak, or I get tired, or I work too, and I've lost the time that I set aside for God, and I feel bad about myself. But here's the thing, you don't need to actually add God into the schedule more. What Brother Lawrence is encouraging us to do is you start noticing God in the schedule you already have. Some of you are about to enter busy season. You're going back to school, you're teaching, something's going on. You do not have to add one more thing to your calendar. You just have to let God be in your calendar. And so I want to make this incredibly simple and invite you to try something this week. And it would be this. Notice God, talk to God, and thank God. Notice God, talk to God, and thank God. So let me share a couple things about this. Notice God. A couple of times during your day, just notice that that notice God. Say, God is here. So you're driving down the road, just say, God's here, and just notice God in that moment. Sitting at your desk, God is here. Making dinner, God is here. Walking the dog, God is here. You're just training yourself to notice that your life is being lived in the presence of God. All the ordinary stuff. Secondly, talk to God. And I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second here. This doesn't mean learn how to talk religiously. Pet peeve of mine is a lot of folks go to seminary and then we become Methodist pastors and then we get all sorts of regal ornamentation and we pray like this. Oh, great God of triune love, we gathered here this morning to talk so strangely. I wonder if God on a Sunday morning is like, brother, 45 seconds ago, you couldn't even speak English right. Like, why are you talking like it's the 1700s again? Like, what are you doing? We have this, we feel like prayer has to be this real fancy sounding thing. I'll tell you what, the fancier someone tries to pray, the less real it is. I'll just say, maybe I'm wrong. I just find I cannot stand it. That is not what religion is about. That's not what prayer is about. Prayer is talking to God. If you want to actually pray, then talk to God like someone you would actually talk to. So, God, I'm worried about this. Not, oh, great God, I am perplexed. No, I'm worried about this. God, that was amazing. Thank you for that person. Thank you for that encouragement. Thank you for God, I have no idea what I'm doing. God, help. God, I'm angry. This is what David did in the Psalms. What you read in the Psalms is not him trying to write fancy religious stuff. He's pouring out the beautiful stuff, the ugly stuff, the stuff you really shouldn't say in church. This is what a relationship is like. If you love someone, eventually the performance, we're all peacocking when we first try to meet someone, right? But then eventually this person knows who you are, gets to know you. This is what happens with God too. You stop performing on some level. And that's how you talk to God. And then lastly, thank God. At the end of the day, just thank God for one thing. Or whenever you think about it, something beautiful, a person that you love, a moment that made you laugh, someone who showed you kindness. Just simply say, God, thank you. Thank you. The strange thing about gratitude is the more that you actually notice someone's goodness, the more your affection for them grows. And some days, here's the deal. Even if you do all this, notice God, talk to God, thank God, some days you'll do all of this and still feel absolutely nothing. So I don't want you to think that this is a formula or a cheat code. Christians have known that this happens for centuries as well. There are days when God feels really close. And there are days where you wonder if your prayers are going past the ceiling. Love is like this too. There are moments when I look at my kids and again, I say, I love them so much. And then there's moments I want to give them up for adoption. Just same kids, same love. It's a different feeling. And so don't measure your love for God based on whether you get goosebumps or whether you have big emotions attached to it. You just keep turning towards God. And so if you want to go on this journey, notice God and talk to God and thank God and notice God and talk to God and thank God. And even if you don't love God right now, this is how you get there. You notice God and you talk to God and you thank God. And over time, you begin to realize God's not like one piece of your life, not one piece of the pie. God's present in all of it. And that's how the whole pie thing works, and this is how it actually works. It's not one Sunday you grit your teeth and you're like, God, here you go, here's the pie. That's not what works. It's little by little you discover that God's present in all of it. like in my marriage and in my parenting and in my work and in my friendships and in my joy and in my grief and in all of the ordinary moments of life. Like God is present in all of it. And the more that I live with God and the more that I learn to love God, what that means is the more there seems to be for everyone else. Do you follow that? The more I live with God, the more I love God, and the more love I have for everyone else. Now, I hope this is helpful for you and for your life, no matter where you are in your faith walk. But today I want to end in a slightly unusual way. Because you came in, you got a bulletin, hopefully, and in that bulletin is a sticker, and it looks like this. Blank will help our church love. Blank will help our church love. And I'm going to invite you to fill this out. There's markers in your seats. You can grab one. There should be one near you. And if you're here by yourself today, you can put your name on there. If you're here with somebody else, you can put both of your names on there. If you are here with your family, you can put the Smith family or whatever makes sense for you. And in a few minutes when we leave, I want to invite you to put that sticker on the board that you saw when you came in today. It looked like this morning, and now it's got stickers from the first service. And here's the thing. When you fill out this sticker, this is not you saying, I have mastered love, and I'm going to put my sticker up. That's not what you're saying. You're also not saying, I'm going to get this right every time. Let me put my sticker up. What you're saying is, I want to be part of this. I want to be part of a church that loves God deeply. I want to be part of a church that loves people generously. I want to be part of a church where people who have been hurt by Christians can encounter something different. I want to be part of a church where neighbors experience grace and where children grow up seeing what love looks like and where people who aren't sure what they believe can still walk through these doors and know that they are welcome. Like, this is the church I want to be part of, and I want to help that church continue to be. And over the next few weeks, this board is going to continue to fill up with names. And every time you walk past it, I want you to not only see your name, but I want you to see the name of other people that you go to church with. Other people that are part of your church family that say, hey, I want to be part of a church that loves. Like, help us make this more than the name of a sermon series. The name of the sermon series is useless. But a reputation is priceless. A church that loves can be how we're known. It can be how people actually talk about First United Methodist Church in Blue Springs. And I want that to be something people genuinely say about us. That this is a church that loves. And it starts with you. And so I hope you'll join us in stacking hands and helping us be a church that loves. Would you pray with me?